accidentally flirted with the cursed tyrant. Part 1. I've transmigrated into a prison. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was stone. Cold, cracked, and covered in moss. A drop of water landed on my forehead with perfect comedic timing, reminding me that yes, I was alive. Or at least I thought I was. Then came the sound, chains clinking at my feet. I blinked once, twice, and finally accepted the cruel reality. I was chained. In a dungeon. And judging by the smell, someone had died here. Recently. Okay, I whispered, sitting up slowly. This is not my bed. The walls were damp, the air heavy, and there was exactly one source of light. A flickering torch outside my cell that looked like it was one cough away from dying. The perfect atmosphere for an R-rated nightmare. I've transmigrated, I muttered blankly. And not just anywhere. I've transmigrated into a prison. A rat squeaked in agreement. Lovely. Out of all the stories in the world, I had to land in this one. Because I recognized this place instantly. The royal dungeon of Nareth, the Empire's most dreaded pit. The place where the worst criminals, traitors, and doomed souls were thrown to rot. And worse, this was also where the cursed male lead, Kael Draxon, was imprisoned. In the novel I read, Kael Draxon was a monster wrapped in tragedy. Feared by all, pitied by none. He was cursed by a god after the betrayal of the empire he once served. Cold, distant, and cruel. He massacred half the royal court before being locked away. The female lead in the story was supposed to visit him out of compassion. She'd heal him, fall in love, and break his curse. Unfortunately, I was not that female lead. So why, exactly, was I sitting in the same dungeon as him? The answer came soon enough. A low, quiet humming drifted from the darkness. Deep, rough, and strangely rhythmic. My entire body froze. That voice. That was him. Oh no, I breathed. Please tell me my cell isn't next to. You're noisy. The voice came from beyond the stone wall beside me. Cold. Absolutely unbothered. I went completely still. Of course the cursed tyrant was my cell neighbor. Because apparently the universe wanted me dead. Excuse me. I snapped before I could stop myself. Sorry for disturbing your royal silence. You talk too much, he said, calm as the grave. I blinked, offended. Well, forgive me for trying to fill the awkward silence in my prison cell. Are you afraid of silence? His tone was indifferent but somehow sharp. I'm afraid of psychopaths actually, I said before realizing how stupid that sounded. And I think I'm sitting next to one. A brief pause followed. Then a sound, a soft, humorless chuckle. Then you should be afraid, he murmured. Oh, wonderful. Absolutely delightful. My next-door neighbor was a cursed war criminal who thought threats were foreplay. The next 3 days passed in a slow, agonizing blur. The guards came only once a day, just long enough to throw stale bread through the bars. I tried to stay quiet, but apparently, quiet and Ianna were mortal enemies. So naturally I started talking to him. Hey, Duke Draxon, I said one afternoon, leaning against the wall that separated our cells. Do you have any hobbies? Brooding, glowering, summoning the undead, ignoring fools, he replied immediately. I grinned. Oh, we'll get along perfectly then. He sighed, long, exhausted, the kind of sigh that said, I regret being born. But the next day when I spoke again, he didn't tell me to shut up. Progress. So, I asked casually, why'd you massacre half the court? Silence. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he said softly, they took everything from me. His voice wasn't angry this time. It was hollow. Me. For once, I didn't have a sarcastic reply. Someone you loved? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. And somehow that said more than words ever could. That night, the dungeon was quiet. No more humming, no more curses whispered in the dark. Just the faint rhythm of his breathing through the wall. And for the first time I didn't feel completely alone. By the 5th day, I'd established what I like to call a fragile truce. He didn't kill me for talking and I didn't die of boredom. One night I heard his chains shift. He spoke without warning. You shouldn't talk to me. Why not? People who get close to me die. I smiled to myself in the dark. Then it's a good thing there's a wall between us. For a moment there was only silence. Then the faintest whisper, like a sigh buried beneath centuries of regret. You're strange, he said. Thank you, I replied sweetly. Took years of practice. I couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence shift, as if the cold aura that surrounded him had cracked just slightly. Somehow, I'd made the cursed Duke laugh. And that, I realized, was probably the most dangerous thing I'd done since waking up here. I didn't plan to care. I didn't plan to talk. And I definitely didn't plan to make him curious about me. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Because somewhere between my sarcasm and his silence, I forgot who the real monster was supposed to be. And that was only the beginning. Part 2. Oops, I broke the curse. It began with boredom. Boredom, and my spectacular inability to keep my mouth shut. 5 days in a dungeon, and even the rats had started avoiding me. Kael Draxon, on the other hand, had the patience of a stone idol. He barely moved, barely breathed, and spoke only when I annoyed him enough to stir the dead. Naturally, I took that as a challenge. Hey, Duke of Doom, I called, poking at the damp wall between us with a piece of stale bread. No offense, but you could at least hum something cheerful. Maybe a lullaby. Murder me softly, perhaps. You're insufferable. Thank you. Flattery will get you nowhere. A sound came from the other side. A low growl that almost passed for a laugh, before it turned into a sigh. Why are you still talking to me? He asked. Because silence is worse. Besides, your curse doesn't scare me. That last part was a lie. A very big, very reckless lie. He went quiet for a long moment. Then the air changed, heavy, charged, alive. You should be terrified. His voice vibrated through the stones, through my bones. The torchlight outside flickered blue for a heartbeat. And blinked. Okay, fine. That was cool. Creepy but cool. Do it again. I don't control it. Right, I muttered. The tragic curse thing. Got it. I leaned back, stretching my legs. Still, it's a terrible curse if it doesn't listen. If I were a curse, I'd at least obey my owner. Something cracked. A sharp pop of magic split the air. Stop talking, he warned. Why? I'm just say. The ground shuddered. A dark gust of energy burst through the dungeon, rippling the chains and snuffing out every torch. My heart stopped. Literal black mist was seeping from between the stones. Oh no. No. What did you do? His voice was sharp now. I was monologuing. I didn't do anything. Wait, did I break you? He didn't answer. Instead I heard chains snap. Shul chains. Then a hand, cold, strong, punched through the wall and grabbed mine. The wall between us collapsed in a cloud of dust and stone. When the world finally stopped spinning, I found myself sprawled across a very solid, very muscular chest. My brain short-circuited. Hi. Kael Draxon looked down at me with eyes that weren't human. A storm of silver and black, lit by faint traces of magic. There was a mark on his throat glowing faintly blue, and his chains hung broken from his wrists. You should not have touched me. I didn't mean to. Your curse has no respect for personal space. Cracks split the ceiling. Dust rained down. The magic I'd accidentally triggered was still rippling through the prison. Stay behind me. I snorted. Behind you? You mean behind the walking death magnet? Hard pass. He turned his head slowly, and for the first time I saw his face clearly. Sharp jaw, a mess of dark hair, eyes like a storm trying to remember it was once a man. Okay, I said weakly. Fine. Behind you it is. He moved with terrifying grace, one hand grabbing a fallen sword from a guard's corpse, the other reaching for me without looking back. Follow me if you want to live. Oh great, we're doing movie quotes now. We ran. Or to be more accurate. He glided, I stumbled after him like a baby deer on ice. Guards rushed into the hallway. Kael didn't even hesitate. A flick of his hand and their weapons melted into shadows. God. You know, for a mass murderer, you have excellent showmanship. Keep talking and I'll throw you over my shoulder. Promises, promises. He did not laugh. I might have imagined the way his mouth twitched. When we finally reached the outer gate, a wave of energy rose from his back, wings made of pure dark light. The curse was bleeding out of him like smoke, but he didn't slow down. Wait, he yelled. The exit's blocked. He glanced at me once, then lifted his hand and the gate disintegrated. I stared at the ashes. Okay, fine, I'm a little in love with that. Run. We burst into the night. A sky full of cold stars, the forest spread like a black sea before us. I gasped in the fresh air and nearly laughed. Freedom. Then a hand caught my arm. You're coming with me. Excuse me. I just helped you escape. You could at least say thank you. This is your fault. You woke the curse. He said it like a fact, cold and final. I crossed my arms. Technically, you started humming first. I just provided background commentary. You won't survive alone. The curse will follow you now. Blink. So you're kidnapping me. Protecting you. Right. That's what all the kidnappers say. But before I could protest further, he hoisted me onto his horse, which he had apparently stolen in the 2 seconds I looked away, and took off into the woods. The wind was cold and the night smelled like freedom and trouble. I clung to him only because I liked living. Definitely not because he was warm and smelled like smoke and magic. Stop moving. Stop being made of stone. He ignored me. Typical. But I swear, just before the forest swallowed us whole, I heard him murmur, almost too soft to catch. I should never have let you speak. And somehow I knew he didn't mean it. Part 3. The Cursed Duke and His Unwanted Wife. The forest was darker than ink. Every sound, every whisper of leaves, every crack of branch, felt alive. Kael didn't slow until the moon vanished behind the clouds. He pulled the horse into a clearing, dismounted with infuriating grace, and glanced back at me. Get down. I stared at him from the saddle. You could say please. He didn't. Obviously. So I jumped and almost broke my ankle. He caught me before I fell, hands firm around my waist. His eyes, silver with faint shadows swirling inside, locked on mine. Too close. Too intense. Too much. I laughed nervously. What? Never seen a woman with poor balance before. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Well, technically you dragged me here, I reminded him. Kidnapping doesn't make me a willing participant. His gaze lingered on me for a moment longer before he stepped back. The night air rushed between us, cold and sharp. He set up camp with silent precision, gathering wood, striking flint, and starting a small fire that painted his face in flickering gold and shadow. I watched from a distance, sitting on a fallen log. He didn't speak. He didn't even look my way. And somehow that annoyed me more than the kidnapping. So, I said at last, what now, Duke of Doom? Planning to live out your days brooding dramatically in the forest? Because honestly, you're killing the vibe. You talk too much. You keep saying that. Ever considered it might be your personality that invites commentary? You're reckless. You don't understand what you've done. I tilted my head. Oh please. Broke one curse. You act like I burned down heaven. You did worse. That silenced me. His tone wasn't angry, it was weary. Almost haunted. The curse isn't gone, he said. It moved. Moved. Into you. Blinked. Wait, what? He looked at me with that same calm, emotionless face, as if he'd just commented on the weather. The curse reacted to your blood when you touched me. Transferred. It will feed on your life now. I stared at him, utterly horrified. Oh, that's fantastic. First I transmigrate into a prison, now I'm a walking cursed battery. Love that for me. He didn't reply. Instead, He tore a strip of cloth from his cloak and tied it around my wrist. What are you doing? Containment spell. It'll slow it down. Wait. You're actually helping me. If you die, the curse will return to me, he said simply. Ah. So it's self-preservation. Exactly. Rude but acceptable. Hours passed. The fire crackled softly, throwing shadows against the trees. Kael sat across from me, sharpening his sword, because apparently, sleeping wasn't his thing. I wrapped my arms around my knees, watching him. He looked nothing like the monster the novel described. Yes, he was terrifying. Yes, the power around him felt barely contained. But there was something else, a stillness. Quiet kind of sadness. You know, I said softly, for someone cursed by a god, you're weirdly polite. I expected more screaming. Do you want me to scream? Depends. Will it echo dramatically through the forest? A faint exhale left his lips. Almost a laugh. Almost. You're impossible, he murmured. And you're stuck with me, I said cheerfully. So I'd say we're even. He looked at me again, really looked, and for the first time his eyes softened, just a fraction. You don't fear me anymore. Should I? Everyone does. Well, I said with a shrug. I'm not everyone. His jaw tightened. That's what she said too. The fire crackled between us. She? I asked quietly. He didn't answer, but I saw it. The flicker of pain he couldn't quite hide. Whoever she was part of the story I'd read. The woman who betrayed him, the one who triggered his curse. I changed the subject. So, do I get a bed? A blanket? A snack maybe? He gave me a long, expressionless stare. Then tossed his cloak toward me. Sleep. You know, you could say that nicely. I just did. I snorted, pulling the cloak around myself. Charming as ever. When the night grew colder, I drifted half asleep by the fire. I must have mumbled something because I felt warmth. His cloak pulled tighter around me, his hand brushing against mine for only a heartbeat before retreating. He thought I didn't notice, but I did. And in that moment, somewhere between his silence and my stubborn heartbeat, I realized something terrifying. The cursed Duke wasn't just dangerous because of his magic. He was dangerous because he was starting to make me feel. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of steel clashing. Kael was practicing, bare-chested, his movements sharp and precise. Sweat glistened across his back as the early light broke through the trees. My jaw may or may not have dropped. Morning workout? Asked sweetly, trying to seduce the wildlife. He glanced at me. You're awake. Unfortunately, yes. Any breakfast? No. Rude. He sheathed his sword and started walking toward me. We move soon. The Empire will send knights after us. Us. Tease. So I'm officially part of your evil escape plan. He stopped in front of me. The morning light caught the faint scar across his cheek. You broke my chains, he said softly. That makes you mine. My heart skipped a beat. He said it so calmly, like it was the simplest truth in the world. I smirked, hiding the way my pulse jumped. Mine. Oh no, Duke Draxon. You've got it backwards. Is that so? You may be the cursed tyrant, but I'm the one who cursed your peace of mind. He said nothing, but the corner of his mouth curved, just slightly, and I realized I was winning. Now. Part 4, The Hunt and the Heart. We left the forest at dawn. Mist wrapped the trees like ghostly fingers, and the world felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that warned you someone somewhere was already watching. Kael walked ahead, silent as ever, the hood of his cloak pulled low. I followed a few steps behind, muttering under my breath about heroes who couldn't even steal breakfast on the way out. Do you ever eat? I asked, kicking a pebble at his boots. When necessary. Right. And speaking to me is unnecessary. Correct. He scowled. You're insufferable. You talk in circles. Better than brooding in squares. He didn't answer, but I caught the faintest curve of his lips. So small, I almost thought I'd imagined it. By midday, we reached the river that marked the edge of Neretha's territory. I was just thinking about washing my face when Kael suddenly froze. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist and pulling me behind a rock. "Stay down." I opened my mouth to argue, then heard it. Oofs, ill. Voices. Soldiers. The imperial crest gleamed on their armor as they crossed the ridge. Kael's eyes went cold. So cold the air itself seemed to shiver. "They found us," he said. "Fantastic," I whispered. "What now?" "We fight. Hide. Pretend to be traveling bards." "You hide." He stood, drawing his sword. The dark metal shimmered with faint veins of blue, alive like lightning trapped inside steel. "Wait, you can't take all of them alone." "I can." And then he was gone. The world exploded into sound. Clashing blades, the crackle of magic, shouts of fear. From my hiding place, I watched him move like a storm given human form, each step precise, every strike a blur. For the first time, I understood why people called him cursed. He wasn't fighting, he was unraveling. I couldn't just sit there. Logic said stay hidden. But logic had never really been my thing. So when one of the soldiers raised a crossbow behind him, I ran. "Kael!" He turned too late. I threw myself forward, pushing him aside. The arrow bit into my shoulder instead of his. Pain bloomed white-hot, stealing my breath. "You fool!" he roared. Next thing I knew, the ground vanished beneath me. His arms wrapped around my body, warm and trembling. The remaining soldiers fell where they stood. His curse spreading like black fire until nothing moved but the wind. When I woke, I was lying beside the river. Kael sat beside me, his sword discarded. His hands pressed to my wound. His face, usually so composed, was pale, raw, human. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. I tried to smile. "You're welcome. You could have died." "Could have. Didn't." "You're welcome again. Do you ever stop talking?" "Only when I'm dead." "Which clearly I'm not. So." He exhaled sharply, half anger, half disbelief. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" I blinked at him. "Because you're cursed, not disposable. And because I'm stupidly heroic, apparently." For a moment, silence stretched between us. Then he whispered, almost to himself. "No one's ever done that." His voice cracked on the last word. Something inside me shifted. I reached up, brushing my fingers against his jaw. He caught my hand instantly, but didn't pull away. "Kael," I said softly, "you really need to work on your people skills." He huffed a quiet, broken laugh. "You're impossible." "Still alive, though," I whispered. "That counts for something." "It counts for everything," he said. Night fell before he spoke again. We sat beside the fire, my arm bandaged in silence. He stared into the flames, his expression unreadable. "I swore never to care again," he said finally. "Love was what cursed me. It turned everything I touched to ash." I looked at him. "Maybe you just touched the wrong person." He turned then, eyes silver in the firelight, the kind of gaze that stripped you bare, not out of desire but desperation. "And you think you're the right one?" I smiled faintly. "No. But I'm the one who won't run." He studied me for a long time. Then, quietly, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, he said, "Then the gods help me, because I can't let you go." And just like that, the cursed duke who had slaughtered empires fell silent again. Only this time the silence wasn't cold. It was heavy, warm, and terrifyingly close to something like love. Part 5, Bound by Curse, Claimed by Fate. I woke to birdsong. Pain. A lot of it. "Fantastic," I groaned, blinking at the cracked ceiling above me. "Still not dead. That's progress." The air smelled faintly of damp stone and herbs. A fire crackled nearby, and for one confusing second, I thought I'd woken up in a cozy cabin. Then I saw him. Kael sat on a wooden chair across from me, elbows resting on his knees, head bowed. His cloak was torn, his sword resting against the wall. He looked like a man sculpted from stormlight, too beautiful to be real, too dangerous to touch. "You're awake," he said without looking up. "Barely." I shifted, wincing. "You patch me up. You'd be dead if I hadn't." "Wow," I said. "So romantic. Keep talking like that and I might fall in love." That finally got his attention. He lifted his head, silver eyes flashing with annoyance, and something else. Something I couldn't name. "You shouldn't joke about that," he said quietly. "Why not? You're cursed, not contagious." He didn't smile. We were in what used to be a grand estate. His, apparently. The place was half collapsed, overrun with ivy and thyme. Still, even in ruins, it felt alive. The walls hummed faintly, as if remembering the people who once lived here. "This was your home," I said, glancing around. "It was," he murmured. "Before the curse." I ran a finger across a cracked marble column. "It's not bad. A little haunted, sure. But it has character." He looked at me like I'd just complimented a corpse. "You find humor in everything." "Someone has to," I said lightly. "You've been glowering since sunrise." "That's my face." "Your face could cause famine if you glared hard enough." He sighed, long-suffering. "I don't know whether to lock you up or thank you for the headache." "I vote for gratitude. Maybe some breakfast, too." He stared. "You're unbelievable." "Thanks. I try." We explored the manor later that day. The air was heavy with dust, and sunlight spilled through shattered windows in long golden beams. I trailed behind him, humming softly. Every time I wandered too far, his voice followed, sharp, commanding. "Stay close. Relax, I'm not going to fall into a trapdoor." "Oh look, a trapdoor." "Ianna." "Kidding." "Mostly." But the deeper we went, the stranger it got. The air shifted. The shadows bent, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Then Kael froze. "Don't move," he said sharply. Before I could ask why, the world trembled. Dark symbols began to glow across the floor, curling lines of ancient script that pulsed like fire. "Curse. What's happening?" I whispered. He didn't answer. His jaw clenched, his hands shaking. Black veins spread across his skin, crawling up his neck. His eyes, those calm, controlled eyes, turned molten. "Kael, stay back," he hissed. "It reacts when you're near. Then I'll move closer." I said stay. Too late. I grabbed his hand. And the curse stopped. The dark marks faded beneath my touch, like ink dissolving in water. His breathing steadied. He looked down at me wide-eyed, as if I'd just rewritten the laws of the world. "You," he whispered. "You silenced it. Guess I'm your human antivirus." He exhaled a shaky laugh. "You should be afraid." "Of what?" "Your dramatic aura." "Of me," he said, voice low. "If I lose control again, then I'll slap you until you find it." That stunned him into silence. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was faint, fragile, but real. "You're impossible. I've been told it's part of my charm." Night fell again, painting the ruined manor in silver. We sat before the fireplace, silence soft and heavy between us. He sat close, too close. Every time I shifted, his gaze followed, sharp and unreadable. I should have looked away. Instead, I said, "You keep staring like that, people might think you actually like me." "Maybe I do." I blinked. "Wait, what?" "You asked for honesty," he murmured. "I find you difficult to ignore." My heart tripped over itself. That's the nicest insult anyone's ever given me. He leaned in then, just enough for the air between us to turn electric. His breath brushed my cheek, warm and steady. "You make the curse quiet," he whispered. "But you make me restless." "Restless sounds fun," I said, voice barely above a whisper. His lips curved. "You'll regret saying that." "Maybe I will. Maybe I won't." The space between us vanished, and then at the last second he stood. You should rest, he said tightly. Before I forget what's left of my restraint. Groaned. Ugh, why are all hot men allergic to commitment? He turned his back, but I caught the faintest sound of laughter under his breath. Good night, Ianna. Good night, your doom-man gloomness. That night, I dreamt of a man with stormlight in his veins and a curse that whispered my name. And somewhere in the dream I heard him say, softly, almost like a vow, if I'm cursed to destroy everything I love, then let me love you last. Part 6. The curse awakens, the heart breaks. The morning came with thunder. Not rain. Just thunder, rolling across a cloudless sky like the gods were laughing at us. Kael was already awake, standing at the manor's balcony, shirt half undone, hair unkempt, eyes distant. He looked too human, too breakable, and that scared me more than any curse. You didn't sleep, I said, stretching. Couldn't. Nightmares. Memories. I hesitated. Want to talk about it? No. There was again that wall. The same one he built every time I got too close. You know, I said lightly, most people thank the person who literally saves their life twice. You're not most people, he said, glancing back. And I don't deserve saving. I rolled my eyes. Oh please. Self-pity doesn't look good on you. He turned sharply, voice rising. You think this is self-pity? His tone cut through the air like a blade. For a moment, the curse flickered across his skin, black lightning crawling beneath his veins. Every time I breathe near you it wakes, he hissed. Every heartbeat I spend beside you, it hungers. Froze. So what, you're saying I'm dangerous to you? No, he said quietly. I'm saying I'm dangerous to you. I should have stepped back. I should have said something witty, turned it into a joke like always. But instead I whispered, maybe I like danger. His eyes darkened. You don't understand, Ianna. This curse, it feeds on attachment. And it killed the last person He stopped. The words strangled in his throat. I stared at him. The last person you what? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. It shouldn't. That hurt more than I expected. He turned away, gripping the balcony railing until his knuckles went white. You think this is a story, he said. You think every curse can be broken with laughter and reckless kindness. But it can't. I was meant to die alone. And if I stay. He met my gaze then, eyes like frozen storms. You'll die with me. The words hit like a blade. I laughed. Too quickly, too bright. Wow. And here I thought you were just emotionally unavailable. Turns out you're a full-time tragedy. Ianna. Save it, I snapped. If you want me gone, just say it. Go, he said hoarsely. And that was the end of it. Or maybe the beginning of the end. I left before sunrise. Didn't pack much. Just the cloak he'd given me, and the memory of his voice when he said my name like it hurt. The forest was quiet again, mockingly so. Every step away from the manor felt like walking out of a dream and straight into a nightmare I didn't want to wake from. I told myself it was fine. That I'd find my way back to civilization, maybe open a tavern, name it the Flirty Prisoner, and drink away the heartbreak. But the silence followed me. So did the echo of his words. You'll die with me. He didn't move for hours after she left. Didn't breathe, didn't speak. The curse pulsed beneath his skin, furious and alive, feeding off the emptiness she'd left behind. He pressed a trembling hand to his chest, whispering her name like a prayer he had no right to say. Ianna. The manor shuddered. Cracks split across the floor as shadows rose like smoke, hissing in ancient tongues. The curse was awakening. She's gone, he said to no one. It's over. But the curse didn't care for lies. 2 days later I found myself lost again. 'Cause of course I did. My life had become one long sequence of, this was a bad idea moments. I stopped at a stream to rest when I heard them. Voices rough and laughing. Bandits. Perfect. All right, boys, one of them said, stepping into view. Looks like we found ourselves a pretty little traveler. He sighed. Look, I've had a really bad week. If you value your limbs, walk away. I didn't. The fight was quick. I held my own for maybe 20 seconds before someone grabbed me from behind. You shouldn't have left him, you know, the leader sneered. The Duke would have killed us for touching his woman. That name, Duke, hit like a spark to dry grass. What did you say? Kael Draxon, he laughed. He's hunting for you. Hunting for me. Not running. Not hiding. Hunting. Before I could process it, something cold swept through the clearing. The laughter died instantly. The men froze, eyes wide, mouths open. Then one by one they fell. No blood. No wounds. Just gone. Turned slowly. He stood there, cloak torn, eyes burning silver. The curse coiled around him like living smoke, but it wasn't wild this time. It was controlled. You came back, I breathed. You think I could let you walk away? You told me to. I lied. You're an idiot. So are you, he said softly. You made me care again. He stepped closer and the curse flared, black marks racing across his arms. I should have run. But I didn't. Kael, stop. I don't care. You'll die. Then let me die holding you. And then he kissed me. The curse screamed, the ground shook, the air split with light. And for one endless heartbeat, everything was silent. Just him. Just me. And a curse that finally broke. When the light faded, he was still standing, barely. The black veins were gone. The air was still. He looked down at me, smiling faintly. It's quiet, he whispered. For the first time in years. Tears blurred my vision. You're such an idiot. I know. You scared me half to death. Worth it. I laughed, choking on relief, and hit his chest lightly. You owe me dinner. And a lifetime of explanations. And you owe me a promise. What promise? Don't ever leave again. I smiled through the tears. Deal. Part 7. The years after his devotion, her chaos. Peace feels strange. After years of running, fighting, bleeding, I don't know what to do with mornings that begin with sunlight instead of alarms of doom. Kael does, apparently. He's an expert at domestic tyranny. You forgot breakfast again, he says, appearing in the doorway, sleeves rolled, hair slightly damp. Correction, I say, stealing a pastry from his tray. I delegated breakfast. To who? Fate. Fate can't cook. Neither can I. He sighs, long-suffering. He's learned that every conversation with me ends in surrender. The manor has been rebuilt. White walls, new gardens, a roof that doesn't leak when I sneeze. And for the first time, Kael looks content. His eyes are softer now, his smile less rare. Peace, however, is boring. So of course I try to sneak into the old dungeon beneath the manor because history, and maybe there's treasure. He catches me halfway down the stairs. Ianna. Yes. Explain. Exploration. You nearly died there once. And survived. That's what makes it a great story. He pinches the bridge of his nose. One day you'll be the death of me. Grin. You'd miss me too much. He doesn't deny it. That night, the air smells of jasmine and rain. We sit on the balcony, watching lightning crawl across the horizon. I rest my head on his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat under my palm. You still can't sleep when it storms, I whisper. Old habits, he murmurs. But it's easier with you here. For a while, there's only silence and thunder. Then quietly, Ianna. I hum, eyes half closed. Have you ever thought about a family? I blink, turning to him. Family as in us two, fighting less? He actually smiles. Bigger than that. You mean kids? He nods. I'd like to see the world through something we made together. A child who laughs like you, argues like you. I laugh softly. So basically, another chaos gremlin. Exactly, he says. But one I could hold without fear. One who'd never know what curses are. The way he says it, quiet, hopeful, melts every wall I ever built. Kael, I whisper. You, the infamous Duke of Doom, want to change diapers? If it means waking beside you and hearing small feet in the hall. Yes. I try to joke again, but the words get lost somewhere between my throat and my heart. You really want that. More than peace. More than redemption. He takes my hand, pressing it to his chest. You've given me both already. Let me give you this. I look at him for a long moment. The man who once destroyed kingdoms now asking to build something small, fragile, and utterly human. You're persuasive, I say. I'm desperate, he admits, eyes bright with something raw and honest. Say yes, Ianna. And somehow, between the thunder and his trembling hands, I do. Fine, I whisper. But if they inherit your temper, you're on night duty. He laughs, relief breaking like sunlight. Deal. The manor is loud now. 2 small voices run through the halls every morning. One with my mischief, one with his quiet stare. Kael still glares at me when I climb trees or sneak sweets before dinner, but he's worse with the kids. He melts completely when they smile. Sometimes I catch him watching us from the doorway, expressions soft and unguarded. Once I asked, "Still think you were cursed?" He kissed my forehead and said, "Yes, with you. Permanently. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that curse for the world." Later, when the kids are napping, we walk through the gardens, the ones he rebuilt with his own hands. Every rose bush, every vine, every spark of life feels like defiance against the darkness he once carried. He stops beside the white lilies, brushing his fingers against a bloom. "Do you remember," he says quietly, "the first time I saw you?" Grin. "When you threatened me in a dungeon. When you annoyed me in a dungeon," he corrects. "You talked so much, I forgot I was cursed. See, I'm healing material. You're chaos. You're chaos," I remind him. He nods slowly. "Yes, mine." The way he says it, soft, reverent, makes the world go still. "Sometimes," he murmurs, "I wonder if I deserve this." Them. I reach up, touch his cheek. "You don't earn peace, Kael. You build it. And you've built ours beautifully." He catches my hand, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "Then let me keep building." Then.